So our presentation is about sentinel event, infant discharge to the wrong family. Sentinel event is an event caused by missing an important step in safe practice that causes great harm and or fatal consequences. The Joint Commission issued a policy to improve safe practice. It includes making a plan to prevent a sentinel event and how to figure out the cause of when and if when it happens. They determined that it should take no longer than 45 days to find the root cause of the sentinel event. An example of a sentinel event is babies who are switched at birth, where a real-world case in India made news broadcasting how two boys were permanently switched due to a mix-up. Some more medical and nursing facts in this scenario include healthcare systems having protocols and safety measures in place that identify children at birth, such as birth weight, APGAR scores, and method of delivery. If a baby is switched at birth, it can disrupt their care because every individual is unique with unique genetic makeup, unique screening results, and unique plans of care.
Newborns can't verbally identify themselves, making nurses responsible for ensuring accurate identification from birth through discharge. In this case, two nurses were reportedly hungover and distracted, which impaired their judgment and led to the failure of properly verifying the infant's identity before discharge. This error had the potential to cause delayed care, mistreatment, severe emotional distress for both families, legal consequences for the hospital, loss of public trust, and investigations by hospital leadership and accrediting agencies. Safe nursing practice requires using at least two patient identifiers and verifying the newborn's ID band with the mother's band before discharge. Because fatigue, stress, and hangovers can impair judgment, hospitals use safeguards such as barcode scanning, infant security tags, double nurse verification, and discharge checklists to prevent identification errors. This event also highlights the nurse's ethical responsibility to provide safe, competent care, as impaired practice can harm patients and lead to disciplinary, legal, and professional consequences.
Being swapped at birth doesn't necessarily cause physical injuries, but it does cause physiological impacts. Although being switched at birth may cause physical injuries from the initial swap, it may have a lifelong emotional, psychological, and social effects. Individuals may struggle with identity, trust, family relationships, and feeling of grief or betrayal after learning that everything they believed about their background and family history was incorrect. So on this slide, it highlights the deep emotional and psychological trauma that can happen when someone is switched at birth. Imagine growing up believing you had belonged to one family and culture, only to later discover that your entire identity was taken from you. One child was raised in a loving home while the other one suffered abuse, discrimination, and neglect simply because of who he thought he was. These experiences can leave lifelong scars, cause anxiety, depression, emotional pain, and even physical health problems. It shows how powerful family, culture, and sense of belonging truly are in shaping a person's life.
Patient safety error, infant discharge to the wrong family. 1. Failure to identify two identifiers. Staff did not match infant and patient ID bands before discharge. 2. Breakdown in communication, poor handoffs or unclear instructions among healthcare team members. 3. Non-adherence to policy. Protocols, required discharge procedures, and safety checks were skipped. 4. Staff distractions or overload issues. Rushing, interruptions, or understaffing leads to missed verification steps. Preventing infant misidentification. The importance of ID verification. 1. Failure to constantly use two patient identifiers. Staff did not verify both infant and parents' identification bands at every stage of care. 2. Improper missing or eligible identification bands. Identification bands were missing, illegible, or incorrectly applied after birth. 3. Missed verification during patient handoffs. Identification checks were not completed during shift changes, transfers, or other handoffs. 4. Reliance on room, location, or physical appearance. Staff relied on room numbers or infant appearance or identification rather than verifying identification bands.
This slide is about newborn identification protocols, which involves making sure to double check the baby and mother that they share compatibility. Verifying before every procedure is also something very important to keep in mind. when it comes to administering anything or when taking the baby to do labs, which will prevent negligence. This next slide is about nurse and staff education, which is very essential to making sure baby swapping does not occur. Training is important and should be taught when it comes to new hires. Also, something different that needs to be done once a year for all others. Different types of verifications should be known and need to be checked multiple times. Knowing the right protocols and actions to take if any mistake occurs is very essential.
Ways to prevent accidental baby swaps after birth, which are key sentinel events. Active ID band verification. Parents should identify the baby and themselves and partner immediately after birth and during each handoff. 24-hour rooming. This keeps baby and mother together for 24/7 rather than in the nursery, which reduces the number of handoffs and potential errors. Electronic safety tags. These tags would be triggered and they would trigger alarms if the infant left the secure area and exceeds distance estimated between baby and mother during procedures. Same room procedures would also be a measure that could be instilled to keep baby and mother together, thus reducing handoffs and the situations of accidental baby swaps after birth. In order to prevent sentinel events such as accidental baby swaps after birth, primary prevention is a great way to prevent this. Team meetings at the beginning of shifts to ensure all team members are cognitively ready and alert for their shift. This gives team members a chance to look at and determine co-workers' alertness. One-on-one baby handling. This prevents switch-ups and reduces the amount of handoffs, thus reducing sentinel event occurrences. Baby log books. This could be instilled to log each baby that is moved or to transport it to a different space and would have the name of the nurse involved in the time and place, time in and time out of baby. Increased security. This could be undercover or known, but this can be very helpful in reducing baby theft and ensure nurses are under more supervision.